Today on Dead Dodge Garage, my friend Bill's 67 Coronet 440. If you don't know about Coronet 440s, I'll spoil the surprise now. That doesn't mean engine size. This car doesn't currently run. It's been sitting for a while, unfortunately. Bill passed away just under a year ago, and the car hasn't done anything since then. Let's roll it off the trailer with the help of gravity and see what we can see. Much better. Okay, please hold while I do 17 other things, then we'll get back to this. Well, it's some hours later, the sun is shining, and the windows are down. I guess I could give you some backstory on this car. I've known about it for, I don't even know how long, close to a decade. It used to sit in South Aberdeen in some guy's driveway, and it looked pretty good. Not this good, but pretty good. My friend Bill bought it from that gentleman and started bringing it around, fixing it up and restoring it. He drove it as it was, but started making little improvements here and there. The interior was pretty rough, and he kind of pieced that together. Pretty good. Not perfect. Don't mind the green armrest. He put a budget paint job on the car, with his family actually helping with the prep work. Doesn't look amazing, but it looks pretty dang good. And he had a Performance 318 built, with a dyno sheet that said 370 something? I don't remember, but it was pretty good. I actually installed this engine in this car with my brother's help. Kind of cool. More on all this in a minute. Unfortunately, at some point, several years ago, Bill found out he had cancer. Then he started undergoing treatment for that. And if you know anything about cancer treatment, well, it's kind of hard on you. And before he knew it, he was losing his hair and his strength and his ability to work on this car or really do anything. Bill was what you might call stubborn. And he was 100% sure that he would recover, get through treatment, and be just fine. At some point during the course of all this, he had some sort of major health event that left him in a care facility. In fact, he called me from there, informed me that his doctors had told him he'd never walk again, and he told them that they were wrong. Through all of this, he held on to the car, and he had plans for it. Unfortunately, he didn't get to see him through. It's interesting how life goes. You know, no one calls you and tells you when you're acquaintances. And that's what Bill was. He wasn't my best friend. In fact, I don't think he thought very highly of me at all. I think he thought I was an idiot. No, I got a message asking if I wanted to buy a bunch of spare Mopar parts out of a garage, and that many of them would fit a 67 Coronet. And I knew right away whose house it was I was going to. I knew at that moment that somehow I would be involved with this car again. And here it is. I haven't bought this car. I'd like to, but it's kind of too nice for me. So what I'm doing currently is getting it running and driving again for the estate. And we'll go from there. If you would like to own this car, keep it to yourself. I do not try and sell cars, projects, parts through YouTube. It never works out. It just doesn't. To continue the story, we'll come under here to the hopped up 318. This thing is spicy. Unfortunately, it's also currently covered in coolant because the last time this car drove anywhere, which was to a car show, the very last car show Bill got to attend, it blew the bypass hose off and made a horrible mess. His son-in-law was able to temporarily repair it and get them to the car show and back, but since then it's been taken back apart and never finished, so here we are. That's problem number one. Problem number two. This engine was dyno tested, and they set the max timing for the most power on the dyno. Unfortunately, it's got a factory timing curve, and it sucks. So the car really never performed correctly on the street. Problem number three. Bill had a vacuum pump installed to run the brake booster. It died. Something about rainwater and being behind the grill. I don't know if this is an old pump or a new pump or what. There are others here that came from Bill's place, so we may be able to fix that, but yeah, that's not the way I would do it. The way I would do it is fix the timing curve so the engine runs right, so it makes a little bit of vacuum at idle, and we'll probably be just fine, so that's kind of the plan. There's enough juice in this battery to light up the dome light slightly, but that's about it, so something's gonna happen there. I have been advised that there's a thread mismatch here, and I may not even be able to thread a standard fitting in there at this point, but we'll find out. I'm not looking forward to it. Now, obviously, the repaint stopped there. And the rest of the engine compartment is not amazing. I will be cleaning it up a little bit, but there's not much I can do about all this missing paint. This car is equipped with a fancy brand new Street Demon. These are the ones that are kind of inspired by a thermoquad. Never played with one of these before. I've been advised that it's running very rich and horrible. When I started playing with it, the choke was stuck open. So apparently that linkage gums up. It does actually have a complete Pertronix flamethrower ignition system. I don't know if that was there last time I touched it or not. I can't remember. There is a little dribble of fuel left in here. Hopefully it'll burn, you know? But we'll find out. You know, hood bumpers would be a nice addition. I may have some of those hiding somewhere. Now there is actually a correct for 67 bypass hose in the car, and that's great, but unfortunately this thing has the larger nipple sizes of a later engine, so it doesn't really help us here. But a little digging around here and I've got just what we need. The blue truck, the gift that keeps on giving, and a project I should probably get back to one of these years. Here's a part that'll fix everything wrong with this setup. Cool. Of course, there is the perfectly good one that came out of it in the trunk. That could work. Well, that's interesting. Even more so because it threaded right out and those last 3 threads were in that hole and not damaged at all. Yeah, a couple not happy threads there, but I'm gonna cross my fingers, my toes, and maybe a couple body hairs and shove it in there. Well, it went right in there, so I think we're okay. Let's find out. Update. This is fine, but this smaller nipple on the water pump, not so fine. I've got the hose clamped down tight, but I'm not banking on that being on there for life. For now, we're gonna move on, see about making this thing run again, but I'll probably have to throw that other nipple in there. I think it's the same size thread, and that'll be fine. I'll have you know I decided to just do this now, you know, so it's done. Then I couldn't find any combination of tools to actually get that damn fitting out on the engine with the fan and shroud and radiator in the way, so yeah, more on that later. Okay, cleaned most of the swimming pool. I'm gonna top up the coolant, put a jump box on it, and see what things are like. Miracle of miracles, the fuel gauge does something. Of course, it doesn't really have anything good to say, but it does move. Oh, that's almost something. It's a really depressing horn noise. No dice there. Have you ever noticed that the volt gauges in these triple pods are never wired? There's a fancy stereo in here, screwed to the dash, which is special. Actually, our Coronet wagon used to have one just like this. Of course, it doesn't work. That's fine. Oh yes, I was also informed that the chrome water neck was leaking, which is normal. There will probably always be a swimming pool down there, as long as that's here. But might help to explain this. Someone has depressurized this cooling system. Sort of thing I would do, really. Well, that's definitely not enough volts. It's not really either, but we'll see where that gets us. Mini starter. Fuel gauge has good news now. Sometime today. Pressure. All right. But yeah, it won't idle. Won't even try. So that's cool. Why you run so bad? I don't know, it kind of idles. Well, that's more like it. Kind of. Yeah, so that's cool. It's depressurized and it's still that bad. Hey, the battery's charging, which is good. I didn't even think to check. There's a gross hot smell. It kind of smells like cooking pasta, but bad. I have a question, and it's this. Why is this? I think someone already recurved this thing. This engine's pulling 18 inches of mercury for vacuum at idle. So, like, that's plenty. But I hooked the brake booster up to the intake, and there is nothing. No assist. So, yeah, it's not a vacuum pump failure. That's a booster failure. Lovely. I've learned the heater doesn't work at all. Not surprising. Also, this is an AC car and all the AC stuff's been removed, so obviously that's not going to work. Oh, it's also one of those ultra rare glove box delete models. It sounds really happy now. Oh, and yeah, the battery's charging, but not enough. Maybe I should pull it and put it on the actual charger. That might be too smart. Look, headlights. That's cool. Oh yeah, this intake has some of those dumb aftermarket 12-point bolts, and under the bracket, they're holding one thread, so as you can see, one of them is no longer winning with us. We need to solve that. Man, this thing runs great now. They must have let someone tune it. Pretty happy with that. I haven't even put a timing light on it, but I don't think I need to. When we got it, my wife's wagon actually had a bad brake booster too. And it weighs even more than this thing, so yeah, that was not good. Oh, and I did check for vacuum in the booster. There's plenty, so this is not a check valve problem. In case you're thinking that. I think this is a firm feel box. Either that or someone just adjusted it. Yeah, it doesn't return to center. Okay, the brakes are not good, but here we go anyway. Yeah, the box does not inspire confidence. That's not ideal. Feels wobbly. This thing has a disc brake conversion from SSBC, brand new bushings. A lot of work done, actually. It feels okay. The box is just super messed up. Oh, that's cool. It can corner by itself. That's a feature, you know? It's nice. There was a guy back there by the river having a conversation with himself. That's interesting. Beautiful day. Tide's out. Yeah, this is not good. What's wrong with this thing? I think someone tried to take slop out of the steering box and ruined it. Been there, done that. Whee! Yeah, it does stop, just not well. Now obviously I'm taking it really easy here. For one thing, brakes. For another thing, not my car. Right, there's also the whole making an intake swimming pool problem. That's not really ideal either. Man, it's pretty today. This thing has all kinds of potential. It could be awesome. It needs a gearbox and a brake booster, among other things. I really like this thing though. And with those little issues fixed, it would be an amazing driver. Pretty cool. Now obviously we're not testing the horsepower. I don't think I'd ever driven this car before. I don't think I was allowed to. Brakes, braking. It's somehow not as bad as our wagon was. Maybe it's the 800-pound difference in weight, I don't know. I don't really know what's gonna happen with this car. I think Bill would have wanted his daughter to have it, but it doesn't seem to be working out that way. I know that if it were my car and my daughter, that's what I would want, but well, it's not up to me. If I have the opportunity to buy it, I may just do that. I really love this car. And, well, it gives me warm and fuzzies. My friend, who may be gone, I can still hear him telling me that I'm an idiot, you know, somewhere. And I like that. Turn signals don't cancel. I'm not surprised. The shifter adjustment is way off, and reverse is kind of like in neutral, so that's not good. But did the battery charge? It did! Nice. Yeah, of course I ruined it by testing it, but that's okay. Well, it's far from perfect, but it's pretty good. You know what needs to happen now, right? Yeah, there we go. All right, this one kind of needs a bath, among other things. I've wanted to get these two cars together for a really long time, actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It does just kind of make the wagon look crappier, though. Admire the almost matching wheels. Missing the caps on this one. and they're not so shiny. 67 Coronet has the go fast grooves in the quarter like the Charger does. Yeah, that's a cool touch. Of course a wagon or sedan in 67 wouldn't have that anyway, but this one looks naked. If there's one thing I know about Coronets, it's that the headlight trim pieces are always dented and damaged. And both of these cars, well, that's true, but one's slightly worse than the other. Blue interior, tan interior that needs some stuff. 318 with a swimming pool, or a 440 with some scunge. Man, this has gotten bad. Ooh, battery hold down needs to happen. Actually, this car has everything the other Coronet needs. A brake booster that works, and a firm feel gearbox. Of course, installing a 440 in the wagon solved a common problem with these cars, and that's people assuming that they have a 440 just because the trim level's a Coronet 440. I mean, that's a problem that could be easily solved on the hardtop here, but frankly, this 318 probably makes more horsepower than that motorhome engine, so. Not only is the trim totally different between the 66 and 7, the taillights are too. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this look at this 67 Coronet. Obviously it still needs some things, but that's gonna happen down the line. At least for now it's running and moving again. If I end up replacing these parts, of course, you'll see that on a future episode. But will it start again? No. So full of hate. Doesn't even want to stay idling in gear anymore. Yeah. Ooh, Charger. You know, the original 66 and 7 Charger was just a Coronet with a fastback roof. Of course, I don't own one of those anymore, or I'd put those next to each other. Just a little different. Yeah, things changed quite a bit from 67 to 68. Well, it's up on the lift now, where it's going to live for a little while. That's right, I'm storing it. And getting it up there was a lot harder than it should have been. I need to set that lift motor on fire. Now I just have to hope my house doesn't like spontaneously burst into flames because I touched Bill's car. Either way, thank you very much for watching. And remember, cancer sucks.